Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi shir.
Shalom and welcome back to today's Daf Yomi Brachos, Daf Lamed Gimel. We're on Lamed Beis, Amud Beis, 6 lines from the bottom, says the Gemara, Tana Rabban. We learned in the Brachos. Masa b'chassid echad, a story with a chassid, a devout fellow. Shei mispal b'derech. He was praying, he was davening on the road. Basar echad, a non-Jewish general approached him, v'nasan le'shalom, and offered him a greeting. V'lo yechser le'shalom. The chassid did not interrupt his tefillah, did not respond to the greeting. Himtim loy, the general waited patiently asher siyam tefillah, until the chassid completed his tefillah. La'achar asher siyam tefillah, after he completed, amar loy, the general turns to him in amazement and he says, Reika, you boor, v'aloi kasa b'saraschem, doesn't it say in your Torah, Rak yishama l'cha shmonavshecha, one is meant to guard his life. Uksivan, it says, v'nishmartem ma'oid l'nafshei seichem, one is meant to guard his life very much. So if so, why did you behave in this manner and place yourself in sakana and danger? When I offered you a greeting, why did you ignore me? Why didn't you respond? If I would have chosen to cut off your head with a sword, to who would I have been accountable to? Why did you place yourself in sakana and danger? Amalei, so the chassid responds calmly, and he says, Hamtenli, please wait for me. Until I appease you with words, I'll explain to you the meaning, the reason for my behavior. Amalei, so the chassid said as follows, if you would have been standing in front of a human king, and your friend approaches you in the middle of the audience with the king and offers you shalom, would have you interrupted the audience and responded to your friend's greeting? He said, surely not, love. Says the chazal, if you would have responded to him, what would have happened? What would have been the consequence? What would they have done to you? So this general says, they would have cut off my head with a sword. So the chassid told him, then it certainly stands to reason. We can make up al kal v'chomer. Certainly in your case, you were merely standing in front of a human king. Today he's alive and tomorrow he's in the grave. His power is so limited. You would have accorded him this type of respect. Certainly in my case, I was standing in front of the King of Kings, Hashem Yisbarach. He's everlasting, he lives on forever and ever. Certainly, I needed to accord him the proper cover, the proper respect, and could not have interrupted in the middle of my tefillah with Hashem. Now the general understood, and miyad, immediately in his spice, he says, sorry, he became appeased. The chassid departed to his home in peace. Asked Mefarshim, how was the chassid allowed to do this? How was he allowed to place himself in danger and in makam sakana? Explained to Mefarshim that he detected that this general wasn't your typical haughty general, from the fact that he approached him and he offered him a greeting, he offered him shalom aleichem. So he felt that this wasn't this haughty and dangerous fellow, and he wasn't placing himself in a makam sakana by postponing his response. Continues the Gemara. It said in the Mishnah, "Afilu nachash karach al hakev lo yasik." When one is middle of davening, even if a snake is coiled around his heel, he may not interrupt. Rabbi Yehuda says it means to interrupt with words, to call out for help. The Rush says even merely to leave your makam tefillah, to leave your place of tefillah, that also is included in the words lo yapsik. He may not interrupt. Amar Sheshes lo shanu. This restriction is only said regarding el nachash, a snake, since the snake is not really so prone to biting. Aval akrav, however, a scorpion, he's more prone to harming a person, poisik, and he may interrupt the middle of his tefillah. Meisvei, we have a brayse that seems to equate a nachash with an akrav. Says the brayse, nafal luguva royes, if a fellow falls into a lion's den, ein mi'idin olav shemes, we may not testify to allow his wife to remarry simply on account of the fact that he fell into the lion's den. Explains Rashi, perhaps they weren't hungry and they didn't harm him. However, says the Brayse, nafal chafira, He fell into a pit of Malaya, Nechashim Akrabim, full of snakes and scorpions. Me'idin al Shemes. We may testify on account of him having fallen to this pit. We assume that they indeed did harm him. So we see that the Brisa equates the danger of snakes with scorpions. Unlike Rav Shesh's distinction between the two, he maintains that a snake is not as dangerous as a scorpion. Says Gemara Shani Hasan, there is different. When one falls into this pit and falls on top of the snakes and the scorpions, the Agav Itzitza, since there was pressure, he landed on them, Maski, they in turn harm him. But in an ordinary circumstance, we can assume that a snake is not as dangerous as a scorpion. Continues the Gemara, Omar V'Yitzchak, Rosh Shvarim. One is more davening, he sees a bull, and he considers himself to be in danger. Poisek, he may interrupt. In Tonev Oisha, Marchikim, a shur tam, one must distance himself from a shur tam, a bull, even though he's a tam, he doesn't have a record of goring. Chamishim amma, distance himself 50 amma. Umishar muad, and from a bull that's a habitual gorer, Kumlayena, from as far as the eye can see. Tanamish Medrameir, Reish Turbatikula, even when the head of the bull is buried in his feeding basket. Solak Irkra, go up to the roof, to the attic, Vishadi Dargam Tutzach, and remove the ladder, meaning take great care to distance yourself from a bull. Amar Shmuel, Hanamil, this is only Bishar Shachar, black bull, Ubiyam Nisan, days of Nisan, days of spring, when he sees the grass growing and his mood becomes expansive. Satan, miracle ben Karna of the Satan, the evil inclination is dancing between his horns, meaning he becomes in this expansive mood, and he tends to generate this destructive tendency to harm and to be mazik. There was a place where a oroid, some say arvad, this type of creature was present and endangered the people. Rashi says an arvad is a product of a crossbreed between a snake and some type of turtle. So this arvad was being mazik sabrius. Bo, they came, they informed them that there's a arvad endangering people. Amalam, so he told them, Heru is chari, go show me his hole, his burrow. Heru is chari, they pointed to him, to the burrow. What did Rav Chanina ben Dosa do? Nasan akevi al pi achari, placed his heel on top of the chari of the arvad. Yatza v'nashchay. The arvad emerges, bites Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa, umeisa isei arvad, and immediately he died. Explains Rashi, in the name of the Bahag, that the nature of this arvad is when he bites a person, whoever makes it to water first wins. If the arvad makes it to water first, then the person dies. In the reverse, if the person reaches water first, then the arvad will die. And there was a miracle that suddenly a mayan, a well, appears right there, and Rav Chanina made it to the water first, and the arvad dies. Says the Gemara, not like Sefer, Rav Chanina took the arvad up, put it on his shoulder, and he displayed it. He brought it to Beis HaMedrash. Amalam, he declared, Ru'ubanai, look my children, Ein arvad memis, elachet memis. It's not the arvad that harms, but rather the sin of the person that harms him. The arvad is merely an agent from Shemayim to pay retribution, to be managed, to punish one on account of his sins. Concludes the Gemara, Ba'isei Shah Amru, they said at that time, Oilei la'adam sheparag be'arvad, woe to the person who was struck by this creature. Va'oilei la'arvad, woe to the arvad sheparag be'Rav Chanina ben Dosa, who was killed by Rav Chanina ben Dosa. Since Rav Chanina ben Dosa was pure, was free of any averus, the arvad had no control, no power, no control over him, and indeed he was harmed and killed by Rav Chanina ben Dosa. Asked him Mefarshim, how was he able to do so? How was he able to place himself in a makam sakana? Even though he was free of sin, he was a tzaddik gomer, he was a righteous person, but one is not meant to place himself in makam sakana in any event. Explained to Mefarshim, Rav Chanina ben Dosa was of such high stature that he was l'mala miteva, he was higher, he was elevated from the laws of ordinary nature, and therefore he had no concern from the threat of the arvad. Continues the Mishnah, Maskir and Gvuris Keshamim Tchias HaMeisim. We mentioned Gvuris Keshamim, praise on behalf, on account of Hashem's strength of bringing us rain. What do we mention? Masha V'ruach Mer Geshem, that is recited in the second bracha of Shemon Esrei, Tchias HaMeisim. The Gemara will explain exactly why. U'she'ela b'Brachos Hashanim. We ask for rain in the bracha, Brachos Hashanim, Baruch Aleinu, we say V'sein Talamata. And finally, V'Havdalah, where do we recite the differentiation, Havdalah, between Chodesh and Chol, on Motzei Shabbos, B'Chonin Hadas, and the bracha of Atachonin. Rabbi Kiva Omer, Omer bracha Raviyas V'fnei Atzma. We compose a separate bracha for Havdalah. It is the fourth bracha Shemon Esrei. We insert it in Brachos Haidah in Moedim. So you have three shitos. Either it is inserted in Atachonin, or it is set aside as a separate bracha, or it is included in Brachos Haidah. Continues the Gemara. Maskir Gvuras Kishamim. We insert Gvuras Kishamim in Tchias HaMeisim. My time and why? Amar Rabbi Yosef, mitoich sheshkula ketchias hamesim, since it is tantamount, it is equated, Hashem's provision, Hashem's giving us rain, which allows the produce to grow and provides sustenance and life for us. That is tantamount, that is equal to tchias hamesim. It is shkula ketchias hamesim, therefore it belongs. The fichach kavua, they establish it in the bracha of tchias hamesim. Why is the request for rain inserted in Baruch Aleinu my time Omer of Yosef Metoshi Parnasa? Since it is sustenance, request for rain is a request for Parnasa, for sustenance. Therefore, it belongs. Lefichach Kavua B'Brichas Parnasa belongs in the bracha of sustenance. And finally, Havdalah B'Chonin Hadas my time Omer of Yosef Metoshi Chachma. Since it requires wisdom in order to differentiate properly between holiness and mundane, it requires wisdom for one to truly value the chashiv, is the value of the sanctity of Shabbos. That requires chachma. Therefore, kavuah, they established it in the birchas chachma of Atachonim. V'Rabban Amri, a different reason why it belongs in Atachonim Tekshi Chol, since it relates to weekdays, the differentiation between Kodesh and Chol, so they will kaveya it in the first bracha, in the first weekday bracha, which is Atachonim, Ficha Kavua B'Birchas Chol. Continues the Gemara. Amar Vami, Gedoyla Deya, wisdom is so great, Deya is so great. Rasha explains this to me. Ruach HaKodesh, the ultimate connection with Hashem, is great. Shenitna ben shtei oisiyos, we find that it is placed between the two letters of Hashem. Shneimar ki keil Deis. Deis is placed between keil and Hashem. One who doesn't bother to use his mind to try to understand, Asal Rachamav, one may not have mercy on him. Shenamar ki lo yambina isu, they are not a nation of understanding. Al kein lo yachmenu, I say his maker will not have mercy on him. One doesn't bother to use his capacity for understanding and for wisdom, we don't have mercy on such a person. Amar Blazer Gadol Migdash, great is the Beis HaMikdash, which is in between the two structures, and mirrors the two structures of heaven and earth, of the Migdash Shalamala and Migdash Shalamata. Connects, it's a synthesis between these two realms of the Elyonim, the spiritual heavens, and the Tachtonim, the physical world down here. It combines everything, synthesizes everything, and it is great. Shanitam ben shtei oisiyos, it is placed, it is in between those two oisiyos, the two titles of Hashem, one denoting Hashem in heaven, and one denoting Hashem's hanhaga, Hashem's behavior and hanhaga in this world. Shenemar Pa'alta Hashem Migdash. Pa'alta Hashem is one Hashem, and Migdash, the Beis HaMikdash, comes in between the first Hashem and the second Hashem, which are reference to the Hashem, the hanhaga, the arrangement of Hashem's Bria in heaven above, as well as the Hashem, the hanhaga of Hashem down here in this world. One who does have true wisdom and understanding makes an effort to connect to Hashem with wisdom and understanding of Hashem through His Torah, mitzvahs, ki'ilu, nivne Beis HaMikdash b'yamav, that is equal as though the Beis HaMikdash was built in His days. Explained Mefarshim, the Beis HaMikdash was Hashem's resting place in this world. It was the Makam HaShechina. So to a person who looks to understand Hashem, to connect to Hashem, and have Hashem's wisdom absorbed within him, he connects to Torah and to Tefillah, and this way he understands Hashem. So Hashem's Shechina rests on him, and he too is considered as though he is building a Beis HaMikdash for Hashem in this world. Says the Gemara, What do we find as Deya Nitna Ben Shtei Oisios? Deya, wisdom and understanding of Hashem is given in between the two Oisios as mentioned earlier. So too Migdash, Nitna Ben Shtei Oisios, and Migdash as well comes between the two names of Hashem as we just mentioned. Therefore we equate it to one who has Deya. It is as though he is creating a Beis HaMikdash for Hashem within him. Maskefla Rav Acha Karchina, he challenges us, and he says as follows: Me'ata, if so, Me'ata Gdoila Nekama. Vengeance Nekama is also great, because we find Shenitna Ben Shtei Oisios. We find that too is situated between two Oisios of Hashem's name. Shnema Keil Nekama is Hashem. Amar Leisi, he says yes, B'milsei Miya Gdoilahi, in its place, in its proper context. When a comma is used properly, it is too a great thing. We find the Torah, the pasuk, makes reference to nekama twice. What is the purpose of the nekamas being mentioned twice? Achas l'toiva, one is for good, for benefit. Achas l'ra, one is for destruction. Explains the Gemara, l'toiva, for the benefit. D'chsiv ha'ifia me'harparan, Hashem appeared from Harparan, explains Rashi. When the Goyim rejected the Torah, Hashem appeared and he was a fia. He allowed the Jews to be freed from their financial commitment in certain aspects to the Goyim. For instance, Rashi explains when a share bull of a Goy damages a share of a Yid, he must pay. However, in the reverse, if a share of a Yid damages a Goy share, he's pater. And this is on account of them rejecting the Torah, and therefore Hashem was mafke v'moinam, as the Gemara explains elsewhere. He allowed leniencies regarding the money of the Goyim. So this is l'toyah, to our benefit. L'ra, what do we find? That the vengeance was for destruction. L'chsiv kel nekamais Hashem took the kama vengeance on the Goyim. Kel nekamais ha'ifia. So we find twice nekama in this pasuk. Kel nekamais Hashem is destruction against the Goyim, and the second one, Kel Nekama Sefia, the vengeance on the Goyim took a positive note, benefited us on the fact that he was mafkir their mamain to Yisrael. Continues the Gemara regarding Havdalah. Rav Akiva Omer, where does he say it? Omer bracha revius v'fnei atzma. It is composed as a separate bracha, as a fourth bracha in Shmoneh Esrei. Amalei Rav Saman bar Abba Rav Yechanan. Rav Saman bar Abba asked Rav Yechanan, I don't understand. How could there be a machlekes regarding Havdalah? It's something we do every week. Michti, let's take a look. Anshe Knesset Agdola, the sages of this great assembly, the Anshe Knesset Agdola, the 120 Chachamim, the time of Ezra, which contained some Nevi'im, they were the ones who composed all the tefillahs, the liturgy. Anshe Knesset Agdola, Tikkun Yisrael, they composed the brachos, the blessings, tefillahs, the prayers, the kedushas, avdalos, all the different parts of our service. So let's take a look what they were masakin. Let's go see what they composed and how they were masakin, how they established the Takana of Havdalah. How could there be a machlekes regarding this type of thing? Amar Leis Rabbi Yechon explained as follows: there were different stages in the Takana of Havdalah. B'tchila, originally, when they arrived from Galus, they were impoverished, they were poor, and therefore kavod b'tfila. They were masakin that one should recite Havdalah in tefillah, not on a cup of wine. They couldn't afford it. Heshiru, once they became more affluent, kavod lakos, then they went and they were masakin that Havdalah should take place on a cup of wine. But then Henu, then Klal Yisrael again became impoverished and poor. Chazru v'kavod b'tefillah. Then they reenacted the takana of tefillah. So at the point, in the middle stage, when Havdalah used to take place al kois, explains Rashi, it was in shtakeach takanas Ezra. The takana of Ezra was forgotten, since it wasn't practiced. Therefore, the details were lost, and that allowed room for a machlekes. Concludes the Gemara, Veheim amru, even though they put it back to the tefillah, they still said, nevertheless, hamavda b'tefillah tzarich sheyavdal al kois. Even though you make Havdalah during Tefillah, nevertheless you should also make Havdalah ala kois. Itmar nami, Omer B'chibar Abba Rav Yechon, Anshe Knesset Agdola tiknu l'am Yisrael. Brachos, utfilos, kedushas, v'Havdalos. And B'tchila initially, kavua b'tefillah, they established that Havdalah should take place during Tefillah. Heshiru, they became more wealthy. Kavua ala kois, they decided that it should take place with a cup of wine. They became impoverished again. They restored it back to tefillah. However, they said, although you make bracha during tefillah, you should also be mavdil on a cup of wine. Itranami, Rav Yosef, they both said mavdil b'tefillah. Nevertheless, so one is meant to do both havdalah tefillah and alakois as we practice today. We have a stira from the Brisa which indicates otherwise. One who omits reference to Hashem's Gvuras, Geshamim, he omits Ma'ashav Mar Degeshem, he omits the request for rain in Baruch Aleinu. In both cases, Machzir and Oisoi, he needs to go back and daven again. However, if he omits Havdalah in Chayin Adas, in Machzir and Oisoi, he need not go back because since he has a second option, he can always make Havdalah on a kois. So apparently, the Bryce is merely referencing the Havdalah on a kois as a last resort option, but it's not something one is meant to do l'chatchila. So this is in contradiction to what was mentioned earlier, that one is meant l'chatchila to make two Havdalahs, one on tefillah, one on a kois. As the Gemara Tema, don't say because he can also make tefillah Havdalah a kois, ella, but rather ema. You should say as follows: why does a person not need to repeat Shemoneh Esrei on account of his omission of Havdalah? It is because of since he will indeed make Havdalah kois. Therefore, since he will make Havdalah anyways on a kois, it is not so crucial and doesn't invalidate his tefillah. Itmanami Amar B'Yamin Yefes Shal Rabbi Yosi es Rabbi Yochanan Tzidan. He asked Rabbi Yochanan in Tzida in the following question. Some say it was Rabbi Shimon and Yaakov Dimentzur es Rabbi Yochanan. Ve'ano Shamis. Rabbi Yamin Yefes saying, I overheard the conversation. What was the question they asked Rabbi Yochanan? Hamavda b'tefillah tzarich she'yavdal kois. He asked Rabbi Yochanan as follows: if one makes a tefillah during Havdalah during tefillah, is he required also to make Havdalah kois? Or not? Is Havdalah during tefillah sufficient? Varmar Lein responded, yes, indeed, tzarich she'yavdal kois. In addition to Havdalah during tefillah, he needs to make Havdalah also ala kois. Says the Gemara, what about in reverse? If one made Havdalah kois, hasn't yet davened, Iboilu, hamavdal kois. Does he now need to make Havdalah during tefillah as well? We can make a kavachaymer to prove the halach. Kavachaymer with tefillah. Ma tefillah deikra takanti. If we see that regarding tefillah, which is the initial takana, it is the primary takana, that was the first takana, to make Havdalah during tefillah. Still we find that hamavdal b'tefillah, although he made Havdalah, he was mekayim and fulfilled the preferred manner, the primary Havdalah. He did Havdalah b'tefillah. Nevertheless, tzarich she'yavdal kois, we require him to add another Havdalah during Havdalah kois. Certainly, Havdalah kois, if one merely made Havdalah kois, which is the secondary Havdalah. The lav ikar takanti, it is not the primary Havdalah. Certainly, of course, he's required to also make Havdalah b'tefillah. So, in conclusion, according to this shita in the Gemara, many opinions hold that one is required to make two Havdalahs, b'tefillah and also ala kois. Now we'll see another opinion which holds differently. That is more preferred. Havdalah b'tefillah is primary. But if he goes and chooses to make a double Havdalah in tefillah and ala kois, Brachos blessing shall land on his head. That is the best way. So one second. How good for kasha? This is a self-contradiction. First you say Amris, first you say Havdalah b'tefillah meshubach yoser. Havdalah b'tefillah is more preferred, is more praiseworthy than Mimishi Havdalah kois, than Havdalah kois. Apparently, Alma, tefillah l'chadas sagi, Havdalah during tefillah is sufficient. Then you go and you say, you conclude by saying, if he makes Havdalah by tefillah and adds tefillah ala kois, blessing should be chal, brachos should land on his head. Says the Gemara, that can't be so. Once he becomes exempt, he fulfills his obligation by doing Havdalah b'tefillah, iftar, he becomes potter. To go and proceed and make another Havdalah, that is an unnecessary bracha. He has fulfilled his obligation in its entirety, and that is not allowed. One who makes an unnecessary bracha, it's an avera. Over mishum leisisa, he transgresses the law of leisisa. So how can you say, although he's fulfilled his obligation, he should go make a davdala again ala kais and make a bracha she'ena tzricha? Ela eimach, but rather say as follows: Im hivdal bazuv, v'lo yivdal bazuv. One makes the havdalah during tefillah, which is the primary of havdalah, but refrains from havdalah ala kais. That is great, and that yonuchel brachos al roshai, he should have brachos chal, land, on his head. So according to this shita, bracha b'tefillah is the primary bracha. The havdalah b'tefillah is primary and is not meant to be supplemented with an additional havdalah al kais. Says the Gemara, "Ba'im minei Rav Chizma Rav Sheshes, tov bezu bezu." Let's say one errors he omits in both of them. He doesn't say he has havdalah during tefillah, and then he goes ahead and he eats prior to havdalah al kais. Ma, what is that halacha? Amar lei tov bezu bezu. Chayzel Rosh needs to go back. Explains Rashi. Chayzel Rosh means l'tefillah ulakos. Not only does he need to make havdalah al kais, he needs to go back to his tefillah. Although ordinarily one omits havdalah during his tefillah, he can always resort to his havdalah al kais. He need not repeat his tefillah again. But in this case, that he has eaten, he ate before he made any havdalah, he gets a knas, a penalty. He needs to go back and do both again. He needs to do tefillah again as well as havdalah al kais. Amalei concludes the Gemara. Amalei Arvina l'Rav Hilchasamai. What is the final ruling regarding havdalah? Amalei ki kiddush. It is similar to the halacha of kiddush. What do we find by kiddush? Ma kiddush. Afagav de mekadesh b'tzloisa. Even though we recite, we speak about kiddush Shabbos in tefillah, nevertheless, mekadesh hakasa. One needs to supplement that and add kiddush ala kos. So too regarding havdalah. Af havdalah nami afagav de mavdal b'tzloisa. Although he makes havdalah during his tefillah, mavdal hakasa, he makes havdalah in addition on a cup of wine. So in conclusion, initially there was a takana to make havdalah b'tefillah. Then Klal Yisrael became more affluent, so they were masakin havdalah al kos. Then they reverted back and they were masakin havdalah during tefillah. What is the final halacha? We have a machlekes. One shita says one is meant to make havdalah b'tefillah. Once he's mavdal b'tefillah, he may not. He's not meant to make an additional havdalah al kos. The final ruling of the Gemara Hilchasa is that yes, we're meant to do both havdalahs, first b'tefillah and then afterwards al kos, as is our common practice. Continues the Gemara. Reb Lezer Omer Bahida. The Mishnah listed us three opinions regarding havdalah on Motzei Shabbos. According to Tanakama, it is said in the middle of Atachoinen, the bracha of Chachma. According to Rekiva, Omer bracha revius v'fnei atzma, we designate a separate bracha for havdalah. According to Blazer, it is said Bahida in the bracha of Moedim, we thank Hashem, we appreciate that Hashem gave us the opportunity to value, to appreciate Kedusha Shabbos, and we make that distinction between Kedusha Shabbos and the mundane weekdays. Now what about Yom Tif? That is Chal b'Motzei Shabbos, a Yom Tif falls out on Motzei Shabbos. We don't daven the regular weekday Shemona Esrei, and we don't have Atachoinen. So when are we meant to recite havdalah? Says the Gemara, Reb Zera have a rochiv chamra, he was riding a donkey. Have a kashachel va'azal Rav Chiya ba'Abba Masrei. Rav Chiya ba'Abba was following behind. Amalei, he asked Reb Zera the following question: Vadei da'amrisu m'shei Reb Yochanan. Is it true that you say in the name of Reb Yochanan halacha Reb Lezer, that we follow the opinion of Reb Lezer, we say havdalah in Brachos Moedim? When do we do that? B'Yom Tov shechaliyas achar Shabbos. Is that true? Amalei. So Reb Zera says, one second, why do you say halacha Reb Lezer? The halacha follows the opinion of Reb Lezer. Mechlal de pli. Do you imply that there's anybody that disagrees with Reb Lezer? So this is how Reb Zera responds in amazement. Why do you think that anybody disagrees with Reb Lezer? Says, no, 1 second. What do you mean? Does anybody disagree? We have two shitas. We have Chachamim. We have Rabbi Kiva. Says Gemara, v'loy pligi. There's no disagreement about pligi. Rabbanon. The Rabbanon disagree with Reb Lezer. Says Gemara, no. Aim of the pligi Rabbanon. Rabbanon only oppose Reb Lezer b'Shoymais Hashana on a regular weekday night that we recite the Tfilas HaChoyd and we have Atachoinen. Rabbanon hold that we mention havdalah and Atachoinen. However, b'Yom Tov shechaliyas achar Shabbos, a Yom Tov that falls out on Motzei Shabbos, when we do not daven the ordinary weekday davening, we have no Atachoinen and we pligi. Do then the Rabbanon disagree with Reb Lezer? Certainly in that case they agree with him. We have no choice, we must insert havdalah into Moedim. So that is what Reb Zera meant when he said, what do you mean there's a disagreement? There's no disagreement in the case of Yom Tov. Says, well, 1 second, what about Rabbi Akiva? Rabbi Akiva. There's another opinion of Rabbi Akiva that holds that Havdalah is meant to be recited in a separate bracha. So perhaps that's what he was referring to. When he asked Reb Zera, does the halacha follow Reb Lezer? What he meant to say is as opposed to Rabbi Akiva's shita. Says Gemara, no. Rabbi Akiva's shita, we don't follow Rabbi Akiva's shita. The entire year, do we follow Rabbi Akiva's shita? No. So that's what Reb Zera meant by asking, why do you imply that there's a machlekes? We don't have another opinion. We never follow Rabbi Akiva's shita. Says Gemara, Atu kol hashana kulam yavdinu Rabbi Akiva. Do we then follow Rabbi Akiva's opinion the entire year? That now we should go ahead and follow his opinion. Why don't we follow Rabbi Akiva the entire year? Why don't we do like Rabbi Akiva and compose a new bracha for Havdalah? What is the reason? The Tamni Sri Tikkun, because the Chacham established 18 brachas for Shmoneh Esrei. Tishri like Tikkun, they did not establish 19, therefore we can't just add another bracha. And we do not do in accordance to Rabbi Akiva's opinion. Here too, says the Gemara, Hachanami on a Matzei Shabbos that is also Yom Tov, Hachanami, Shev Tikkun, the Rabbanan established 7 brachas for the Shmoneh Esrei. Timon Tikkun, they did not establish Tam, they did not establish 9, therefore there's no reason to entertain that we should follow Rabbi Akiva's opinion. That was Reb Zera's response. Why do you imply that there is a machlekes, meaning there's nobody else to follow? The Rabbanan, that doesn't apply on a Yom Tov Shechalias Matzah Shabbos, since we don't daven a regular weekday Shmoneh Esrei and there's no Atachoinin. Rabbi Akiva Shita, we never follow Rabbi Akiva Shita. There's no reason to think that now we should follow his opinion, and therefore certainly the only remaining Shita, the only remaining option is Rabbi Lezer, and we insert it into Brachos Eidah. Amar Lei, in any case, Rabbi Zera responds and he says, Lav halacha itmar. It wasn't said in the Lashon halacha that we rule according to Rabbi Lezer and we go and announce in the public. Ela matan itmar, rather it was a Lashon of matan. We're inclined to follow the opinion of Rabbi Lezer, as Rashi explains. Matan means that we tell an individual, a yachid, we paskin, we tell him to follow that shita. We don't announce in the public. The itmar, Rabbi Yitzchak Avdimi Amash Rabbeinu halacha. We follow that ruling. We announce it as a halacha. Va'amrila, some say matin, some say we're really inclined to the shita. That the Chachamim agreed. They agreed to Rabbi Lezer's shita. It appears that seems the right way to conduct oneself. We don't rule that way, but if one does follow Rabbi Lezer's opinion, he need not go back. He has fulfilled. You should grab Rabbi Chiya Abba's version in your hands. It's reliable. The Daik v'Gamar Shmaitim and Puma Demara Shapir. Rabbi Chiya Abba was one who was very meticulous in relating the teachings of his Rebbe in a very exact form. Similar to Rav Chava from Pumbedisa, who also conducted himself, exemplified this trait. Rav Chava, Rav Yudah, Harabayis was stav kafala, a double stava. To stav is an area of a row of benches. Yistava was a double row of benches. And even though Rashi explains the Mishnah refers to this area as the Itztaba, he insisted on using the term stav, which was the lashon, the term used by his Rebbe. So Rav Chiya Abba also had this type of trait that he would be very meticulous in his enunciation of his Rebbe's teachings, Rebbe's rulings, and we can rely on his version, which is that Nirin. It appears that Rabbi Lezer's shita is the preferred manner of conducting oneself. We're meant to follow that version. I don't recognize this nor that, not halacha, not matin, none of this. How is one meant to conduct himself on a Matzei Shabbos that is also Yom Tov? One is not meant to insert his Havdalah into Moedim, but rather, Ela med Rav Shmuel Yadana, I recognize the ruling of Rav Shmuel. The Tkinula and Magnesis B'Bavel, they composed, they created a pearl in Bavel as follows. One is meant to recite the following text. On a Yom Tov that falls out on Matzah Shabbos, we make a Havdalah of a different variety. A Havdalah that differentiates between Shabbos, which has a greater Kedusha, and Yom Tov, which has a lesser Kedusha. Hashem, you've taught us, You've informed us your righteous mishpatim atamdenas kusanecha. You've taught us how to do your chukim. V'antanchileinu zmanei sasan. You've inherited to us zmanei sasan, times of joy. V'chagei nedava, yom tovim, of goodwill. V'tayishenu, and you've inherited to us, bequeathed us with kedusha Shabbos, the holiness of Shabbos. U'kavod moed chigis haregel. Bein kedushas moed, between the higher level of Kedusha Shabbos, make Kedusha Shabbos, the Kedusha Yom Tov Dalta. You've separated, you've made a distinction between the higher level of Kedusha Shabbos and the lower level, Kedusha Yom Tov. Ashvi, Mesheishes Me'amasa Kidashta. You've sanctified Yom Ashvi Shabbos from the 7 Yimei Hamasa, 7 weekdays. You've Dalta, you've separated Vikidashta, Samchi Yisrael B'Tzecha, Vatitan Lanu, and as the text continue, you've given us the Yom Tovin. As Rashi says, we conclude with the Mekadish Shov Azmanim. So, Rav Yosef says, this is the way to make Havdalah on a Yom Tov that is Chal on a Matzah Shabbos. So in conclusion, regarding Havdalah on Matzah Shabbos, we have 3 shitas. Either in Milvat HaChoinin, or Milv Haidah, or a separate bracha of Bracha V'yis V'ne'atzma on a Matzah Shabbos that is also Yom Tov. We are meant to say the nusach of V'tadeinu Hashem Elokeinu make Havdalah, distinction between the Kedusha Shabbos, which is greater than Kedusha Yom Tov. Continues the Mishnah. Ha'omer al kan tzipor yagir achamecha. The Mishnah will present us with some individuals that they have a unique way of addressing Hashem. Ha'omer, one says, Hal kan tzipor yagir achamecha, just as your compassion, your achmanis, was extended to the bird's nest, the kantzipor. You've instructed us to send away the mother prior to taking the children, just as your rachmanis has extended itself to the bird's nest, so too your compassion and your mercy shall extend on us. Al kantzipor yirachamecha, or va'altoi v'zacheshmecha, on good events, on good happenings, your name should be remembered. Or moidim moidim, he recites the word thanking Hashem twice. Mishat Kenoisai, we silence these individuals. Says the Gemara Bishleimer, Moidim Moidim, all is well regarding one who repeats Moidim twice. Mishat Kenoisai, we silence him. Why? What is so bad? It looks like he's thanking, he's referring to 2 powers, and not to the single omnipower Hashem. Or, says the Gemara, one who says, on good things your name should be mentioned, that too is not good. Mashmal, that implies only on good things Hashem's name should be mentioned. And we know it's now, we learned in the Mishnah, one is meant to thank Hashem, bless Hashem for tragedies, just as he thanks Hashem and he blesses Hashem for good things. Ultimately, everything is good, everything is l'toiva, everything is sourced from Hashem, who's the epitome, who's the source of goodness. Ella, but regarding the statement of Al Kantzipor Gerachamecha, what is wrong with that? Says the Gemara, my time, what is wrong with that? Pligi batem aroim marava. There's a machlokes between 2 amoraim in Eretz Yisrael, between Rav Yosef Ba'avin, Rav Yosef Azvida, to explain what is wrong with saying Hashem, just as you have extended your rachmanas and mercy on the birds, do the same for us. Chad Amar, one said the reason is by announcing it in this way, he is inserting jealousy amongst the Masabereshis, amongst the creatures of the world. Hashem only has Rahmanis on birds and nothing else. And one says the reason is he portrays the mitzvahs of Hashem as being an expression of Hashem's compassion. They are meant to be gzeros for us, to develop within us Rahmanis and mercy and compassion. And by him framing it in the reverse, by him saying this is an expression of Hashem's compassion, he is framing it in the wrong way, in the wrong context. Says the Gemara story. How there was a Shliach Tzibur who died in the presence of Rabbah, and he said, Vamar, he announced as follows: Ata, Hashem, you, Chasta Kantzipor, you've had mercy on the Kantzipor, on the bird's nest. Similarly, Ata Chus Racham Aleinu, have compassion, mercy on us. Amar Rabbah, so Rabbah complimented him, and he says, Kama Yodai Tzum Rabban L'Tzil Lamara. Look how this Tzum Rabban, this sharp Talmud Chacham, knows how to L'Tzil Lamara, to appease his maker, to appease Hashem. Amalei Abaye. So Abaye responds and he challenged him. He said, how do you compliment such a person? Mishnah says we're meant to silence him. Says the Gemara, yes indeed. Rabba simply wanted to challenge Abaye so that he sharpens him. He wanted to see that Abaye responds by challenging him. He wanted to sharpen his mind. Says the Gemara, there was a fellow who was a Shteich Tzibur, the president of Chanina, and he composed the following text in praise of Hashem. Omar, Hakeil, Hagodol, the great one, Hagibor, powerful, Vanoira, awesome, Va'adev, Va'az, Va'yora, Chazak, strong, Va'ametz, Va'avadev, Va'nichpad. He used all these different terms to praise Hashem. Him to let to see him. Rabbi Chanina waited until he completed. And when he finished Kisim, he said, Amalei Samtinu, V'kul Shvach Demarach. Did you finish the whole list of praises that can be given to Hashem? Lamalach Kuli Hai. Why do you need to go through that whole list? Anan, we conduct ourselves in the following manner. Anan, Hanit Lasta Amrinan, the three that we do say, Hagadol, Hagivar Noira, that we do say, that is merely as a result of Moshe Rabbeinu and Agdola setting it forth, presenting it. Ilav Damrinu Moshe Rabbeinu Baraisa, if not for the fact that Moshe Rabbeinu has said it in the Torah, and also Anshe Agdola, the people from the Anshe Agdola would have came and were masakin and v'staknin b'tefillah to establish it that we should say it in our tefillah. If not for that, we wouldn't have even been able to say those three praises. Hashem is so far beyond us. We can't use our limited words to relate to Hashem. It is only because they've established it for us on our behalf. So we follow that. And you go ahead and you compose your own list of praises. You know what I'll tell you? It's analogous. It's a mashal melch basar adam. It's a mashal to a king. Shoyle elef alfim dinei Israel. They had much gold. They went and they praised him for his silver. It's a degradation. It's a gnai. It's a bezayin. It's disrespectful. Like gnai. It is a disgrace. So regarding Hashem, who's so great and awesome, we can't relate to him in a limited form. We should not go ahead and use our limited capacity to relate to praise to Hashem. Let us just follow the text that was standardized for us by the Anshe Knesset Agdola. Continues the Gemara of Amar Chanina, Hakol b'yedei Shemaim. All things are in the hands of heaven. A person's nature, a person's circumstance. He'll be smart, he'll be a tipesh, he'll be tall, short, asher, ani, everything was decreed is b'yedei Shemaim, except for spirituality. That is placed in our hands. Chutz mir Shemaim, fear of heaven. Shenemar, Va'ati Yisrael, Ma Hashem Shekech Shomimcha. What is Hashem asking of you to accomplish? Ki'im, only one thing, Liyira, to have fear of Hashem. It says, what do you mean Ki'im Liyira? Only fear of Hashem. Is that such a minor thing? Ati Yishmaim Milsa Dzutrusihi. Is it such a small thing? It is a very great thing. It is very difficult to achieve. Why does the pasuk say only Yira Shemaim? It is so special and great. Hashem doesn't have in his treasures the treasure of Yerushalayim. Hashem. This is the treasure of Hashem. So how can you minimize the value of Yerushalayim? Says the Gemara. Yes, look at Moshe, who was the one who said that pasuk, for him, for one so great who has already acquired Yerushalayim, for him it is a very minor thing, since he had already acquired it. He possesses Yerushalayim. It is a mashal to one, you request of him a big vessel. And if this person really has it, so the request isn't so great because he can easily acquire it. But if one doesn't have a kli, and you ask him even for a small kli, katan ve'enlai, you ask a person for a kli katan, this person doesn't have, it doesn't possess it. It appears to him the request is overwhelming. It appears to him like it's something so great because of his difficulty to acquire it. So Moshe Rabbeinu, who already acquired Yerushalayim, he relates to Yerushalayim as a minor thing, as a miltrusi, even though it is so great and special. Continues the Gemara, if one repeats Moedim twice, we silence him. When one repeats Shema Yisrael twice, that too is a problem. That is equal to the halacha of Moedim, and we silence him. Says the Gemara, one who repeats Shema, is a meguna. That is disgraceful. Says the Gemara, meguna hu dehavi. It is meguna, but we don't see that we must silence him. but we don't have to silence him. So how do you say, how does Reb Zeir say that Shema Shema is equal to Moedim Moedim and requires silencing? So the Gemara like Kasha is not difficult. They're speaking about two different situations. This is speaking about when the Brachos says Meguna, it's a disgrace, it's something not nice. That's talking about when a case where one repeats, Milsa repeats the words, Shema Shema, Yisrael Yisrael. So it doesn't really make sense what he's saying. Therefore, it doesn't appear as if he's committing himself to two kingships, to two Malchus Shamayim. So it's merely Meguna. But however, when one says the pasuk twice, first he says Shema Yisrael Hashem Ken Hashem Echad, then repeats it again. He repeats the pasuk twice. In that case, Mishatnes, we silence him. It appears perhaps that he's relating to two rishuyos, two powers in the world. So that is more severe. Why do you silence this person that repeats Shema twice? Perhaps the first time he hadn't had the proper concentration. But the second time he properly concentrated. So why do you need to silence him? Papa says he is relating to Hashem as a chavrusa, as a friend. He doesn't take care to have the proper concentration the first time. If this fellow hasn't properly concentrated the first time, we hit him with a marzafta de nafcha, we hit him with a hammer of a smith. We punish him until he has the proper kavanah. Don't suggest that this person didn't have the proper kavanah the first time. One is meant to approach Shema with the proper frame of mind, to have proper kavanah. Therefore, we don't assume that that's what happened, and therefore if he repeats Shema, we silence him, since it appears perhaps that he's connecting to two rishuyos, and that is not what is meant to be done.